It is bracket time. March Madness is here once again, and we are here to break down each and every single region and give you our Final Four picks. We'll also throw in some of our favorite bets to place during the next couple of weeks. This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Noe, Lance Barton. Traditionally, we are a college football podcast, but this is our podcast. We'll do whatever we want to. We're talking March Madness this week because it is that time of year. It's one of the best times of year. We're going to jump right into the regions here, but before we get to that, if you guys are interested in joining a bracket challenge or a knockout/survivor pool, head over to X or Instagram. Always Talking Ball, always talk ball on X. DM us. Let us know you're interested. We will let you know how to join. Also, make sure you check out our latest gear from homefieldapparel.com. Scan that QR code in the top right corner if you're watching on YouTube. And when you get to checkout, type in promo code ATB15 for 15% off your first order. They have all kinds of basketball gear to get you ready for March Madness. Also, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. All right, Lance. Before we get to the South regions, give me your overall thoughts on the bracket as a whole. A couple big takeaways. Obviously, North Carolina getting in as that 11 seed is all anybody wants to talk about. But come 12:15, Thursday afternoon, no one's really going to be talking about that anymore.
Yeah, it's funny, man. You got 12 teams in football. You've got 68 team field plus the first four that we've got here in hoops, and it doesn't matter how many teams. Man, it could be 300. Everybody's going to want to bitch and moan and argue about that last team that got in and how they shouldn't be in and who should be in above them. But man, I'm not trying to be a prisoner of the moment, but I don't know that there's been a time that there's been this much of an egregious of putting a team in that really should not have been in.
Mm-hmm.
Only one quad one win. I've never heard a committee sit around and talk about quad two wins. Like they kept highlighting quad two wins.
Yeah,
for North Carolina against West Virginia, who is West Virginia and your Indiana Hoosiers were the teams that were really left out. And North Carolina getting in. But yeah, I mean, Carolina should not have been in, man. But whatever. At this point, I will say this. I remember several years ago, Shaka Smart's VCU team was a team that everybody said that should not be in the tournament. And it was so egregious that they made the tournament and then they went on a Final Four run.
Yeah.
I'm not saying North Carolina is going to go on a Final Four run, but, with a guy like R.J. Davis and a guard like R.J. Davis, I mean, he could help Carolina win a couple of games in this tournament possibly. But West Virginia and Indiana being left out and North Carolina getting in, I thought that was just tragic. And it was just terrible decision. And another takeaway, it's got to be mentioned, man. I mean, I know, shocker, I'm going to say something good about the SEC here, but 14 teams, bro, out of 16. Well, I mean, we heard all year that it was the best conference maybe ever, and it was the best conference in the Ken Pom era. And since they started keeping up with all the metrics in the Ken Pom era, and I guess the committee agreed by putting in 14 teams. I was very surprised it was 14. I had in my head, I thought it was going to be 12. But 14, I mean, again, they rewarded the SEC for playing such a tough, conference and non-conference. A lot of teams in the SEC did play a tough non-conference. But the way that they performed in non-conference, and then obviously the metrics that they're using now with your Bart Torvik, with your Ken Pom, with the net rankings, wins above the bubble, whatever, all the things that they're looking at now. I mean, the SEC looked good in all those metrics, so that's why there's 14 teams from the SEC that made it.
Yeah, to your point on West Virginia, first time in bracketmatrix.com's history that every single bracketologist, all 111 of them, had a team in, and the committee decided not to put them in. And I'm not vouching for, Indiana. They had plenty of issues on their own, but they didn't lose a single game outside of quad one. They had, I mean, heck, you can talk about Boise State, right? Boise State beat San Diego State, New Mexico in the past week. That's two better wins than North Carolina had all year, probably. So
yeah, 100%. I should have mentioned them. Boise. I would have
give
rather
the chance to the little guy.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's just, and it further begs the question, and you're going to just open yourself up for conspiracy when the AD of North Carolina is the chairman of the committee, which further begs the question of why do we have sitting ADs who financially benefit from these colleges deciding on who gets in?
100. What was it? 140? I think it was 140 grand of a bonus that Bubba Cunningham,
Yeah.
AD at North Carolina, sitting chairman on the NCAA selection committee, that he received for North Carolina making an NCAA tournament. And they happen to be, I don't know that we'll ever see that the AD that's the sitting chair on the committee, that it's that AD's team that is the last team in the field.
Yeah.
That's wild
Yeah.
that happened. And then, of course, like in football, you've got AD Ward Manuel from Michigan, who was,
Mhm.
just like you said, it just definitely opens up yourself for conspiracies
Yeah.
in this stuff.
Yep. All right, man, let's get to it. Let's start off with the number 1 overall seed in the South region, the Auburn Tigers. They get what I think is a pretty favorable draw there in the South. They get to go
Yeah.
through Atlanta. Obviously, tough luck for them drawing Louisville, possibly in Kentucky.
I got
Second
to
round.
remind people of this, because my buddy that is obviously I'm from the state of Alabama. I've got a lot of friends that are diehard Auburn fans. For those that are first time listening, a friend of mine, I am not a fan of Auburn. I'll leave it at that. But a friend of mine told me that today, that he said, the last team that really should be crying about this deal about Louisville getting the chance, if they were to win
Mhm.
the game, to play Auburn in Lexington 2 years ago. Auburn was an 8 or a 9 seed, and they played 1 seed Houston
Mhm.
in Birmingham.
Yep.
So it's the same situation. Honestly, that was a terrible draw for Houston to have to play Auburn in Birmingham. It ended up working out for Houston in that
Yeah.
game. It is a bad draw for Auburn to have to play Louisville, if Louisville were to beat Creighton in Lexington. But yeah, I love Bruce Pearl's comment on that. He said, "We've already won by 2 touchdowns in Rupp." He said, "So I guess, we'll beat somebody else by 2 touchdowns in Rupp if we have to."
Yeah. All right, give me your favorite upset or upsets in this region.
I mean, if I have to pick an upset, honestly, man, I do think that we're going to talk about this a lot probably throughout each bracket, that the metrics back this up too. Ken Palm shows it. A lot of your adjusted metrics show it, that these 1 seeds and 2 seeds and your 3 seeds, I mean, they are as strong as any 1 seeds and 2 seeds and 3 seeds as a group, of a collection overall group that we've had in this NCAA tournament. Now, why is that? I think that's because that a lot of these teams are older, more experienced. Players are staying in college longer overall because of NIL. They can make a lot of money now in college hoops. They're not all of them are going pro as early as they used to. And you got a lot of these mid-major guys that are really good basketball players at mid-major places that are transferring to places like Auburn. I mean, Auburn's got 3 or 4 guys that are like that. Transferred in from mid-major places like Janai Broome and Chad Baker Mazzaro. Miles Kelly transferred in from Georgia Tech. Got a lot of guys that are experienced, good basketball players that have been playing college hoops for 4 or 5 years. And a lot of these teams are like that. But
Yeah.
as far as to answer your question, I mean, dude, it's
Let me stop you there real quick. I'm gonna shout out Stats by Will. Will Warren. He does a pretty good job sending out Substacks and everything, but he did a historical analysis on this 2025, and you were just talking about it. The number 1 seeds, 3, 4 seeds, 5 seeds. No, not 5 seeds. Sorry, 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. And that's kind of where it ends. Strongest batch of seeds for those seeds ever. Like
okay. Well,
so the 1 seeds, I mean, 1 seeds absolutely crush it. That the previous high was in 2015 March Madness. And he's if you want to go check him out, he's got all kinds of historical analysis and stuff. But yeah, you hit it right on the money there.
I mean, when you even brought up 12 seeds, like
Yeah.
Colorado State. I mean, dude, Colorado State is a really good basketball team and hot as hell right now, and they're a 12 seed.
Mhm.
But back here to the South bracket, as far as upsets possibility, I mean, 10 seed New Mex over 7 seed Marquette. That's something that I could see
Okay.
happening there. I know there's been some 10s lately that have been more. There's been more 10 seeds that have won over 7 seeds in the last. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. There's been more 10 seeds that have beaten 7 seeds in the last few tournaments than actual 12s over 5s here recently. So I could see New Mex and Richard Pitino and the Lobos taking down Marquette and Shaka Smart. Another one that I could see here would be, I know that Yale's going to be kind of popular because they took down Auburn last year.
Yeah.
Yale's got a couple of guys they always got dudes that can shoot it. I was doing some homework on them. They've got 3 guys that shoot above 38% from the 3-point line. So they can fill it up. They can fill it up last year. They've got some experienced players that have been in the tournament. but I just don't think they're as good as what they were last year. I mean, they lost multiple dudes to transfers to other programs that were on that team last year. But man, we've got to mention them. The team that my dad has been doing sports handicapping and basketball for a very long time. And he told me like early in the season about this team, the Tritons of UC San Diego. And I was like, yeah, okay, Dad, whatever. And then about a month later, a boy Tyler here that likes to partake in some college hoops, sports betting and stuff is like, all of a sudden I see that action app just ringing up on UC San Diego. Tyler, lock it in some
Oh
bet
yeah.
on the Tritons. And so then I asked Tyler about them. And yeah, man, they've been tearing it up for the last month or two. They're one of those mid majors. Correct me if I'm wrong, man. I know you're dialed into Ken Palm. Hasn't Ken Palm had them as basically like a top 25 team in the country overall, period, for
Um,
most of the last month of the season?
they started out at 129th in the season,
Yeah.
and they got as high as 35th, and they're currently 36th right now. And to put it in perspective, yeah, they're playing a Michigan team in that 12-5 matchup. Michigan's the number 25, so they're 11 spots higher in Kempom, which is why you see that spread of 2.5 right now.
Which is nuts, man. Michigan, dude, we ain't got to launch off into because if we did this, we could be talking for the next 3 hours. But Michigan got screwed, bro. That's what I think. I personally think that. I mean, this just further proved the point that you and I made last year when we did a March Madness deal. Going into Championship Sunday in these conference tournaments, I really don't think they matter. I
Not
really don't.
lose.
Yeah, they like
If you lose like Indiana did to Oregon, they drop themselves out, right?
the bubble teams. It matters for them, yes,
Yeah,
and it
but like
matters for the
Michigan just beat Purdue, they just beat Maryland, and then they just beat Wisconsin, and all three of those teams are higher.
Yeah, they beat Wisconsin for the second time of the year, beat them in the Big Ten championship game, have more quad one wins than Wisconsin,
Beat Purdue twice.
beat Purdue twice, and they gave them a 5 seed. Now I know that they got to have some game that leads into the Selection Sunday show, so there's no doubt, man. They've already had those brackets filled out, and they're not going to sit there and tell us all the truth that they already did have them filled out. But Michigan get a 5 seed is a joke, and then the fact that Michigan has to draw UC San Diego, it's a 12 seed. Like we talked about, these 12 seeds are as strong as what we've seen ever in the college basketball NCAA tournament here. So I could see UC San Diego will be a popular pick because you're going to hear a lot of people talk because they're a good basketball team. But I could see UC San Diego at 12-5, and I could see New Mex upsetting Marquette as possible upsets here.
Yeah, and not to mention, I believe Michigan just played 3 games in a row. They finished late on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They got to fly out and they got to play on Thursday in Denver.
Yikes!
Right?
They're
going to Denver.
And I think that they are. Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, you're right. It is in Denver.
Yeah,
it's in Denver. Yikes!
I mean, you got to play at altitude after just playing. Yeah. And UC San Diego, they only played 2 games in the Big West tournament. They were able to. They structured that tournament the way get their high seed in there, and they got UC San Diego and UC Irvine both in there. But Michigan's got to play at Denver. They got to play at 10:00 at night East Coast time too, 7:00 San Diego time. I mean, it's all setting up for the Tritons to get a win here.
That's tough, man. That's just a tough draw, man.
Yeah,
for Michigan and the crew. But yeah, that's 2 of the upsets I see. Did you did you have anything different than those?
No, UC San Diego, I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, that's going to be a popular pick, I think. Mm-hmm. As far as on the other side of it, if you look for a guaranteed, seeds 5 through 8, like we're not going to include the top 4 seeds, but seeds 5 through 8 in this region, you think of one, I think of one just guaranteed to win. I'm actually going to go opposite from you. I'm actually going to say Marquette is just, I think they're going to win over New Mexico. Okay. I'm confident in that because, I mean, you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. Mountain West performance in the past in the March Madness has been nothing to write home about. You got Cam Jones from Marquette going against Donovan Dent. That's going to be a heck of a matchup. I think Marquette can throw enough bodies at Nelly Jr. Joseph down on the inside. And I think Shaka is itching to get to that 7-2 matchup to face Michigan State. Because if you know, a couple years ago, Marquette was a 2 seed and they faced Michigan State. And Michigan State got them in the second round. So they're going to be looking for a little revenge on their mind after that New Mexico game. So I like Marquette.
I like that, man. I like that. I can't be mad about that. I love that matchup. I love that matchup there too between the guard play in that matchup as well. The what do you think North Carolina is going to beat San Diego State in the first four?
Probably because it
Yeah.
just happens every year. Everyone bashes on the team that got
Yep.
in, and then all of a sudden like you said, and they're 4.5 point favorites. So and
They're
again, the
going to
Mountain West.
be, yeah, dude. I don't think that they could possibly play more inspired basketball after what they've been hearing for the last few days.
And there's probably going to be 80-20 North Carolina fans there in Dayton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know too, man. They were fired up to put in North Carolina and Dayton on that first four matchup. But
Yeah.
who do you think so Texas A&M we know beat Auburn here recently. That was right after Auburn had clinched the SEC.
Yeah.
They literally were at Sky Bar on stage there in Auburn, just dancing, pouring up liquor bottles to leading swag surf at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
They didn't even practice on that Sunday because I think they were all still hungover. I think they were literally hugging their liquor bottles in their dorm room still. And then they fly to College Station on Monday and play a basketball game on Tuesday. Got beat by Texas A&M, and that kind of started the little downfall. Auburn lost 3 of their last 4 games in the regular season. Again, really good teams that they lost to. Lost Texas A&M, lost to 2-seed Alabama, lost to 2-seed Tennessee. So they played some really good teams. But do you think Texas A&M could possibly, if they were to make it to the Sweet 16, do you think they could take down Auburn in the Sweet 16?
I don't think it'll happen again. Just to be honest with you, I think they can give them a game, but if they get to the Sweet 16, it's against Auburn. I just think it'll be a lot tougher. Obviously, you see a heck of a lot more motivated team.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's a really good defensive team. They're look, their metrics on Ken Palm and stuff, offensive, defensive, all of it's just ridiculous. That's why they're number 1 overall seed. But A&M can, toughness and physicality wise, can hang with Auburn, which is why I think that'd be a solid matchup for them. Again, Wade Taylor IV, been playing forever for A&M, multi-time All-SEC player. But I'm with you, man. I don't think that Auburn would. I think Auburn would take care of them in the Sweet 16 if that's the matchup that ends up happening. My Auburn buddies are all like, "Please God, don't let it be Yale again. Like, don't let us see Yale again."
Yeah, I mean A&M does have they're 11th in D1 experience in the country, and they're 7th in minutes continuity this year. So they've got guys that have been there.
They've got guys that have been there forever that are even coming off the bench now because of other players that have stepped up and played really well for them this year. But
all right, let's do game by game picks here.
All right.
I'll go first. We'll go all the way to the Elite Eight. We'll save that for later. But I'm gonna go Auburn. Obviously, I'm gonna take Louisville over Creighton.
Okay.
I just think having that Kentucky crowd, I like that for Louisville.
By the way, I'm gonna go with you here just to for purposes of time. Yeah. I'll just go. So I've got the same thing. I've got Auburn versus Louisville.
Okay. I got UC San Diego over Michigan.
Okay.
For reasons we mentioned, and I've got A&M over Yale. I think it's just tough for teams to sneak up on people twice. Like the Yales, the Grand Canyons, the McNeeses, they all had their time last year. Obviously, winning some games, obviously having some hype around them. Yale beating Auburn, it's just gonna be tough to duplicate that. They do a lot of things. They force A&M into a lot of things that A&M's not good at, especially shooting. But I just think A&M they just got too much. So I got UC San Diego versus A&M.
Yeah, I've got Michigan pulling it out against UC San Diego. I think Big Blue finds a way to get it done there. But dude, I don't feel good about it. Not one bit at all for a lot of the reasons that we just already talked about. I got Tamu getting the win over Yale in that matchup as well. I just think the overall athleticism, depth for A&M, physicality, the defense. If you remember last year too, I'm not saying that San Diego State is the same team as last year. Last year San Diego State is this year's A&M, but the overall physicality and the athleticism and the kind of the style of play, defense, rebounding, etc. That is what A&M. A&M's really good defensive team, one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They limit you to one shot. So I think that A&M will get it done against Yale.
Yeah. Bottom half of the bracket, I got Ole Miss coming out on top over either San Diego State or North Carolina. I don't think it really matters there. I think Ole Miss and Coach Chris Beard, unless he's focusing on taking another job, a certain one down in Bloomington, we'll see. But
you hope.
Yeah. So I think Ole Miss advances there, and I think they're going to play Iowa State. Although I do think Lipscomb is going to be able to hang around with Iowa State.
The boys from Nashville going to give Iowa State a game, you think?
That's my first bet. of the week, Lipscomb plus 14.5.
Hey,
Last night. I think they're
okay.
down to 13.5. I would still take a shot at Lipscomb.
Iowa State's got some injury bug. I got a little
Yeah,
injury bug
Keyshawn
too.
Cooper is out for the
Yeah.
tournament. They
That
said so.
sucks, dude. Sitting at
Lipsy's
the end of
gonna
the
be
year
back,
like this. Yeah.
but losing their leading scorer. I mean, he's been out for a while, but just not having him back for the tournament, like they were going to be a solid Final Four contender.
Yeah.
And I think they're a team that can get to the Sweet 16 now, but it kind of takes out some of their punch.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, same with you. I've got Ole Miss and I've got Iowa State winning both
Okay.
those games.
Bottom half, I'm taking Marquette and I'm taking Michigan State. Second bet of the week, I took Bryant plus 19.5 against Michigan State. Bryant doesn't have a single dude in the starting lineup under 6'5".
Oh, got some length. Okay.
They got some length. I mean, hey, he's had some trouble in first round games in the past. Everyone remembers Middle Tennessee back in the day, but watch out for Bryant, man. They can score.
All right. I've got I'm gonna take the Lobos, bro. I'm gonna take New Mex to take down a Shaka. And
We're gonna start calling you Mountain West Lance.
I might need to, bro. Like I pooped on them last year for our March Madness episode, so you might need to. And bro, January, February Izzo. Come on, bro. You know what it is.
Yep. I'm taking Auburn over Louisville.
Yep, same.
Yeah, again, we talked about it. It's gonna be tough and tougher than expected in Kentucky, but
Quick, small little rant on this. For years, I've been talking about this. That Calipari brought this up years ago when Kentucky was an 8 or a 9 seed. Wichita was the 1 seed. Kentucky ended up beating Wichita in the second round. And after that, Calipari came to the defense of Wichita in a post-game presser and said, we're normally the ones that dealt with this here at Kentucky, that the committee will misseed a team, and that team gets punished. But not only that team gets punished, the 1 seed or the 2 seed, whoever the high seed is, also gets punished for having to play that team.
Yeah.
Auburn's much better than Louisville, okay? But Louisville should not have been an 8 seed. They should have been a higher seed than an 8.
They were on the 6th line.
Yeah, they should have probably been on the seed. What'd you just say?
They should have been on the 6th line. But again,
like
we talked
I was
about,
gonna say they should have been on the 6th line.
We talked about the conference tournament clearly, wasn't taking advantage. Now they got screwed on the seed, but they placed them in Kentucky, so kind of made up for it there. But they were one of the 2 teams that I thought were incredibly misseeded. We'll get to that other one here in a second, but we both got Auburn taking on or beating Louisville, and then I had UC San Diego versus A&M. I got the Tritons. I'm riding them. I'm riding to the Sweet 16, man.
Dougie, my pops will be right there with you probably,
Yeah.
man. Y'all been making some money on the Tritons all year. Might as well keep riding them. I've got Auburn versus TAMU versus Texas A&M in a Sweet 16 and a rematch there in a Sweet 16 matchup.
All right, so that's 2 SEC teams in the Sweet 16 for Lance. Let's keep track.
Keep count, baby.
Ole Miss, Iowa State. I'm gonna take the Cyclones. I think Otzelberger and the boys get it done, and then Michigan State, Marquette. Marquette wants the revenge, like I talked about. Shaka's going to be an underdog in that game. Not going to matter.
Okay.
Izzo's going to get it done, and it's going to be Iowa State and Michigan State in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got the Clones versus Sparty as well in the Sweet 16.
Okay. And then Auburn, UC San Diego. This is where I got to hop off that Triton train, man. I got to take Auburn to get to the Elite Eight in that one. And then Iowa State, Michigan State, if that game were to take place, heck of a game. That will be such a good game in the Sweet 16.
2 elite coaches.
Yes. And I think Izzo finds his way to the Elite Eight and sets up a massive matchup with Auburn.
Yeah, I'm with you. 1 and 2, chalk flying. I've got Bruce Pearl and Auburn taking on Sparty in the Elite Eight.
All right, let's head to the East bracket, where you get the number 2 overall seed Duke Blue Devils, who won the ACC tournament without Cooper Flagg. Still just kind of I mean, I know the ACC's down, but man, still just looking really good without him. Was very impressive. It sounds like he's going to be back. I don't know if he'll be back against the winner of American or Mount St. Mary's. I'm not sure that's going to matter. But, he might get a little run in that game, 10, 15 minutes, kind of see how the ankle's feeling. From what they were saying, he wasn't even kind of in a boot after Thursday, after the Georgia Tech game when he answered it. Or when he injured it. So I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I have to agree with you. Duke going through that ACC tournament still. beating Louisville in the championship game, beating North Carolina. I mean, that was impressive without Cooper Flag, without the best player,
And without
arguably
Malik
the best.
Brown.
Yeah, arguably the best player in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very impressive.
Yeah. In this bracket, man, we got a ton to talk about. I've got, just kind of looking down here. We'll get to the upsets here in a second. One of the upsets I kind of want to look at and maybe throw out there. My most likely upset, because I don't see a lot. Honestly, this whole tournament, man, like, I hate to say it, it could be real chalky, especially in the first round.
Yep.
It could lead to really good matchups later on in the tournament, but it could get a little chalky because just the top seeds, like you mentioned earlier, are so strong. But
I mean,
one of the ones I would,
again, man, I just think that some of these mid-major teams, they're just getting hit so hard with the I know they're getting some solid transfers
Yeah.
too that aren't playing in the Power 4 level, like Power 5, Power 6, whatever you want to call it in basketball. But a lot of these mid-major teams, their best players show out, and then they immediately leave and go elsewhere and go to one of these power conference teams.
Mhm.
And it's weakened some of them.
Yeah.
There's some really good ones in here still, but yes, that is why that a lot of people and a lot of your so-called experts believe that there's going to be a little bit more of a chalky tournament as far as the better teams matching up later on in the tournament.
Yeah. One of the upsets that I would look at would be that 6-11 matchup,
Yeah.
VCU and
Yeah.
BYU.
Absolutely.
Obviously, everybody knows the Rams since Shaka have been there. They've run that press defense. They force you into turnovers. But man, it's a contrast of styles, man. They're going up against BYU, a team who can shoot with Richie Saunders at 43%. You got Kanan Catchings, you got Dallin Hall, you got Trevin Nell, Keba Keita. I mean, just so many weapons that BYU could hit you with for
They were
first year
so
Kevin.
hot down the stretch at the end of the year too in the Big 12. So
Yeah, and they
hot.
ran. I mean, they ran into Houston, and Houston does what they did to a lot of people, right? So,
Yep.
um,
This is two go with teams, man. In the betting world, these are two teams that you probably wish they weren't matching up against each other because you'd have liked to ride either one of them playing each other. So that's a tough 6-11 matchup for both of these teams.
yeah, I mean, Ken Palm's got it at a 1-point spread, which shows you just how close they are. I mean,
There you go.
BYU's 24th and VCU's 30th. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be an upset to many if VCU pulled that off. But what upsets you like?
VCU's one of mine as well that I would take a look at there. I think St. Mary's will take care of Vandy in their game. Vandy is just so piss poor defensively. They can score. I mean, but they're not very good at all defensively. And St. Mary's is one of the best defensive teams in the country. Vanderbilt wants to get up and down the floor. St. Mary's is like 359th in the country in pace of play.
That game they had against Gonzaga in the championship game was just like a slog.
Yeah, I could see them putting Vandy in the torture chamber a little bit there with with defense and.
Vandy's not, they're playing away from Nashville, so I mean that's tough for them.
Yeah, agreed. Hang on, man, we can't. Let's not skip down there. Let's bring up something here. Your alma mater.
I know, man.
What do you think?
It's the rematch of the 2024 Fiesta Bowl, which
right.
Oregon won by 39, and I don't think they'll win this one by 39. But man, talk about another tough draw for Liberty. Like Dana Altman's one of the most profitable coaches against the spread in March Madness. Richie McKay is no slouch. I mean, he can coach, man. They're very Virginia-esque. He came from Virginia and Tony Bennett. They actually got like a pretty solid offense. They've got two guards in Colin Porter and Kaden Matheny. Matheny can absolutely light it up, which he did in the Conference USA Championship. And they don't have a lot of size, so Biddle's going to give them some toughness down low. Now those two guards, man, like I mentioned, they're 6 foot and under, so they're tiny. But Jackson Shellstad, he's only 6'1", so he's not going to put a lot of length on him. But having to go out, play a 10 o'clock game East Coast time in Seattle, where there's going to be a ton of Oregon fans, man. Like,
good point.
That's going to be tough sledding for the Flames, I think.
Yeah. So like really the only upset I've got, man, is VCU over BYU, and I am picking that. Like that's actually going to be on my bracket. I got the Rams taking down BYU, and that's a tough. I mean, BYU's been so hot down the stretch, man. But I like this VCU team. And I think VCU's coach too is like it's kind of a bad kept secret that he might be the new coach at UVA, taking Tony Bennett's spot. After so as long as they're focused and he's focused on this matchup, they can make some noise in this bracket, bro. I saw
They
Gary
could.
Parrish came out. And I think he had VCU in like the Elite Eight, playing Duke in the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Rematch of 2007 or whenever that
right,
was.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I think VCU gets it done against BYU, and that's going to be one of your better games. I'm calling it now. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be one of your better games of the first round.
Yeah. And that game, I believe, tips off at 4:05 on Thursday. So that'll be an afternoon game. But seeds 5 through 8, I actually picked my most confident one I'm in was Oregon over Liberty.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just being a pessimist on the alma mater train there, but I just think, like I mentioned, Seattle late night, Dana Altman, like I'm just super confident that Oregon gets that done. I mean, Liberty's shown in the past they beat Mississippi State back in 2018, 2019, one of those two, and they've shown they can get it done in that 12-5 game. But I think Oregon's just so strong.
I would agree with you, man. Dana Altman in the tournament for all the reasons you said there. They're tough. I mean, they're in the non-conference too. They were really, really good in the non-conference this year. I mean, they beat Alabama in that tournament in Vegas this year too. Uh, yeah, that's a tough draw for Liberty. And like again, 5 through 8 seeds, like you're talking about. I just said 6 seed BYU. I think they're going to lose.
Yeah.
St. Mary's, I think that's a good matchup for them against Vandy, but Vandy can fill it up, and they've
Hmm.
got some athleticism. So I mean, that could be a solid game. But I would agree. The one that I would feel most confident about to win the game would be Oregon.
Yeah. Okay. I think we both got Duke over the winner of American and Mount St. Mary's.
Yep.
And I'm taking Mississippi State over Baylor.
Yeah, me too.
That line's flipped. Mississippi State opened as an underdog. Now they're a favorite. So people got smart there. The dentist was an underdog against Scott Drew and the boys who don't play a lick of defense. I know they got VJ Edge coming and everything, but Josh Hubbard can catch fire at any moment. And you've seen that firsthand this year.
Yes, I have. And they're again, Chris Jan's teams, bro. Like they play good defense. They rebound. They got some athletic bigs that run the floor well. Like you said, Hubbard can shoot it, can light it up. And when he gets hot, dude, he's one of those that just like it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. He's one of those too, man. It's just fun watching him. If he gets hot, bro, in a tournament game, you want to talk about heat check. This
Yeah.
cat will cross half court, and if you give him any space at all, he's pulling up from 30.
He's a pull from the logo.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's an interesting matchup there. And you're right, man. Ever since Jerome Tang's left Baylor, like they just have not been the same.
Yeah.
And it's been mostly defensively. Like defensively, they've been booty the
Yeah.
last 2 years. So yeah, I'm with you. I got Duke playing Mississippi State in that matchup, and I've got Oregon playing Arizona. I've got Arizona coming out of that game against Akron. But hey, sneaky. What's the line on that? Like if you don't have it in front of you, it's okay. Of the Zona Akron game, don't worry about it if you don't have it right in front of you. I don't have it in front of me either.
Zona Akron, I believe it's on Friday. And I mean, Ken Palm's got it at 14, so I think it's around 13 and a half probably.
Ooh, that's a bigger line than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's one of those teams who's had its troubles in the past, and they lost. I mean, they lost to Buffalo a couple years ago, and another MAC team. They lost to Princeton, right? So they've had a lot of losses, and everyone talks about Caleb Love, like they don't trust Caleb Love, like he just got games where he like can't do anything. I'm like, well, he got games where he can
Goes
freaking
off.
light it up. Like he led an 8 seed North Carolina to the national championship game.
Yeah, dude, he was the star of that tournament. And hey, how about a good old former Pac-12 showdown in the second round on the round of 32 with Zona and Oregon? That would be fun.
Yep, Oregon, Arizona would be good. Bottom half of the bracket, I'm opposite you. I'm going to take BYU. I'm going to ride the hot streak with BYU.
Okay.
I think they get it done. I think Kevin Young, first year coach there, I think gets it done. And I think they get it done. And they're going to face Wisconsin. Wisconsin going up against Montana. We haven't talked about the Badgers yet, but
Tanji.
again, Wisconsin. It's the same with Michigan. They just played 4 games in a row, and they ended Sunday. And you know what? They're going to play Thursday in Denver at altitude.
Okay, here we go.
Montana already plays at altitude. I would just say watch out for Montana. They can make that a game for at least a half.
Right.
And then what are they going to do? They're going to play BYU second round. BYU plays at altitude. They're used to that stuff. Like it's just that's a bad recipe for both Michigan and Wisconsin.
And if it was VCU that came out of that game against BYU, having to face that pressure, full court pressure against VCU.
Yeah, maybe he's right on the VCU. Gary Parrish is right. VCU go to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, that's tough. That'd be either way, man. Either way, BYU, they're used to playing in altitude. If they play that bunch, or if they play the pressure of VCU, that'd be tough.
Yeah,
tough for the Badgers. I've got Whiskey versus VCU in that matchup, and then below that, I've got St. Mary's. I've got the Gales.
Yep.
getting it done. I just think it's a good matchup for them against Vandy. And I mean, Vandy, they're going to win after I say this, but I think they might be the weakest of the 10 seeds. I was surprised actually that they got a 10 seed personally.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be one of the 11s that were in, the first four. But yeah, so I think St. Mary's wins that one. And you know what it is, bro. Roll Tide. They're going to get it done against Robert Morris.
Yeah, they got a tough one against Robert Morris. So hopefully they can get through that. But second round, got Duke over Mississippi State.
Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah, I just don't think Mississippi State's going to pose much of a challenge to Duke.
I don't think they're good enough offensively, man.
Yeah.
But they might be able to hang with them on the boards a little bit, play a little D, but overall,
Yeah.
I don't think they can score enough to hang with Duke.
Like you mentioned, old Pac-12 matchup, Oregon Arizona. I'm taking the Rubik's Cube himself, Dana Altman.
Yeah, I figured you
All
would.
he does is solve Rubik's cubes. I think he gets back to the Sweet 16. I think he sets up a pretty solid matchup with Duke there in the Sweet 16. So I'm taking Oregon over Arizona.
Yeah, I've got. I'm gonna take Zona. And I'm scared to death to do that. Obviously, with Lloyd's issues that he's had a little bit overall in
Yeah,
the
he's
tournament.
got to get over the hump eventually.
He does. And Caleb Love in his 9th year, playing, maybe he can lead another squad. And I would say either way, if we get Dana Altman in Oregon with about a week to prepare for Duke, that would be fun. But Caleb Love,
Yeah.
getting another shot at Duke.
Well, they already played this year too. Remember,
That's
they
true.
played out at Arizona.
You're right. But Caleb Love in the tournament, getting a chance to be the Duke Blue Devil killer again,
Yeah.
would be interesting. But yeah, I've got Zona taking down Oregon and playing Duke in the Sweet 16.
Okay. I've got BYU versus Wisconsin, and I've got BYU getting to the Sweet 16 for the reasons I mentioned. I mean, just a terrible spot for Wisconsin, getting 3-4 days rest, having to travel west, play at altitude. They play at a faster pace than they normally do, than they have probably in the last 2.5 decades. They take more threes than they normally do. We saw them. I mean, that Michigan game Sunday, you could see them just wearing down. Like they just didn't have any legs left. So it'll be interesting to see what they do against either BYU or VCU. But I've got BYU heading to the Sweet 16, and I'll go ahead and say it. I got Alabama beating St. Mary's, and I got them set up with a track meet. Alabama and BYU in the Sweet 16. That total could be 190.
Yeah, that would be just threes raining from all over the place, bro, in that game. I mean, they play basically the exact same style and stuff. I mean, threes and layups. So yeah, that would be fun, man. I really want to take VCU over the Badgers, dude. I really want to do it, but I think I'm gonna take the Badgers.
Okay.
Here, I'm gonna take whiskey.
You like John Tanji that much, huh?
Yeah. Nah. Oh, should I flip the script here? Let's do it, bro. Let's go. This will be my only probably double-digit seed that I end up making the Sweet 16. VCU, that pressure defense, like you said, in Denver. Yeah, let's go VCU Rams. Beating Wisconsin, heading to the Sweet 16. And then I'm going to have St. Mary's, Bama, and I'm going to have Bama taking down St. Mary's. Again, that is literally couldn't be more of a different of contrasting of styles. Alabama is number 1 in the country in Ken Palm's tempo and overall just like tempo rating. And St. Mary's is 359th. So the pace of play couldn't be any different.
Yeah.
So again, there is the chance that St. Mary's could slow that game down a little bit and give Bama some trouble. I just think overall, man, the athleticism overall of Alabama, the length, and just the out-athleting St. Mary's eventually will wear the Gales down. And I think Bama gets by St. Mary's in that game and sets up a VCU-Alabama Sweet 16 matchup.
While we're talking about Alabama, what's the word on Grant Nelson, if you've heard anything?
Yeah, so it looks like that, and literally in Nate Oates' exact words, we dodged a bullet, is what he said. So Nelson looks like that he might be back for game 1, but Oates said at worst they'll have him back for Sunday's game against whoever they were going to draw in the second round if they were to beat Robert Morris. So that's obviously a big deal there because Nelson, when he's playing well for Alabama, just makes Alabama a completely different team with his 6'11", his size. He can play that point forward position. He can shoot the three. Last year, he was one of the main reasons that Alabama made that Final Four run, his emergence in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Still worries me a little bit. I mean, he's not going to be 100%. So,
I
like,
agree. I
yeah,
agree with you.
but I think they still got enough to get it to the Sweet 16. We've got two different Sweet 16 matchups, you and I do. I've got Duke versus Oregon. I got Duke taking down Oregon. I think it'll be a good game. But I just think Duke's too much. I think they got a good draw in this
Yep.
bracket. I think there's too much firepower for Oregon. Then I got BYU, Alabama. I mentioned I think it could be a extremely high scoring game. But I got Alabama going to the Elite Eight and facing off Duke. You got me talked into your Alabama VCU matchup because I'd love to see VCU do the full court press against Alabama and see how well. I mean, obviously it's the Sweet 16, so Nate Oates would have time to prepare for it. But seeing how Alabama reacts to being pressured and trying not to turn the ball over and everything.
Gosh, you might be able to clip this, but if that's the case, good luck with LeBaron Philon and Mark Sears in the guard play there.
Yeah.
Trying to pressure them. But yeah, I've got Duke beating Arizona in the Sweet 16 matchup at the top of this bracket, and I've got Alabama beating VCU. And again, an up and down the floor track meet. Alabama doesn't care about being sped up. That is literally what they want to do. Please speed me up.
Yep.
Is what they want to do. Again, I just said they're number one in tempo. So if it is BYU that comes out of that upper deal there, that you're right. That could be an absolute shootout and first one to 100. Could be what that game turns into. But yeah, I've got Duke and Alabama playing each other in the Elite Eight. Chalk flying 1 versus 2.
Yep. All right, let's go down to the bottom right, Midwest. We got Houston as the number 1 seed down there. Kelvin Sampson does it again. They seem pretty healthy this year. Obviously, Juwan Roberts sat out in the Big 12 championship. I think he's going to be back, but man, Houston, they just, like we were talking about the other day, Milos Ujan was just like, he came from Oklahoma, and like, I don't want to say the words that Kelvin Sampson basically said, but like, he's a lot tougher guy here in Houston than he is at Oklahoma.
He said he was a wussy.
Yeah, wussy.
Basically. When he got to from Oklahoma to Houston, and there's no doubt, bro. You
got to be a man to play for Houston.
No, yeah, 100%. The emergence of him,
Mm-hmm.
of his play and elevating his play as this season has gone along, having that trio at the guard position for Houston now is just huge for them. Obviously, LJ Cryer, he's been playing basketball. I mean, literally, LJ Cryer was on the Baylor team that won the national championship. It seems like 20 years ago. But yeah, LJ Cryer, was he like a 5th-year senior, I think?
5th year, yeah.
Played a lot of hoops in college basketball. So, but they're just who they are, man. Houston's exactly who they've always been defensively, but they've got some shooters now.
Dude, they've got 3 guys who shoot 42% or better, and they shoot as a team almost 40%, like 4th in the country.
Yep.
That's a lot different than Houston teams of the past.
Yeah, I mean, Houston last year's a Final Four team if Shed doesn't go down with his injury. But I do think we'll go through this here in a minute, like obviously through this bracket, but like overall, this is the best chance, as long as they stay healthy, that I think that Houston's had to make a really big run at winning it all. Because of what you just said, having multiple guys that can shoot it from the outside. Obviously, they're big and physical on the inside. They've got multiple bodies that can run at you in the paint as well. Just your typical Kelvin Sampson Houston team, but they also can fill it up and shoot it this year.
Yeah. As far as upsets go, first place I got to look is 50 minutes up the road, where West Lafayette is from my house. As soon as I saw High Point get matched up with Purdue, as soon as I saw Purdue get the 4 seed over Michigan, when really Purdue should have been a 5 seed, but they got the 4 seed, but committee didn't do them any favors by putting High Point in their region. High Point is already a popular bet. It's been bet down from 9.5 to I think 8, maybe 7.5 now.
Wow.
People are betting on High Point. So that is probably the first place I would look. You don't see a lot of 4-13s, but Purdue went to the national championship game last year. But other than, like, if you look at the roster, obviously they've got one of the best point guards in the country in Braden Smith.
Yep.
They got Trey Coffin-Wren down low, but in my mind, people are going to hate me for saying this because I'm friends with a lot of Purdue fans, but I don't think their roster is filled with nothing but a bunch of mid-major guys after that, like mid-major caliber guys. Like, everyone wants to talk about Fletcher Lawyer, like he can shoot threes, but he can't do anything else. Like, Cam Heide had a good tournament last year, and everyone's kind of predicting him to break out this year. It just hasn't really happened. It hasn't materialized, and they just lost a lot of games. They lost some games at home this year that was concerning. They had a period where they lost 4 in a row. But Matt Painter's a solid coach. I would look out for a high point there.
Yeah, I've been noticing a lot of people too, as that's been a little bit of a trendy pick for an upset there. I mean, the American gangster Will Wade, there at McNeese. I mean, again, a guy like Will Wade has no business coaching at McNeese, dude. That's such a joke. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
what he basically got dismissed for at LSU is legal now.
Yeah.
And it's also too interesting that Will Wade went to Clemson. That's where he literally graduated from, as his alma mater. It's where he got his coaching start from, underneath Oliver Purnell as a graduate assistant at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting story there. But this McNeese team isn't as good as last year's McNeese team. They're still solid, very solid. They're not as good as last year's team. And Clemson still got some really good veteran players from that bunch last year that went to the Elite Eight. They were also, too, at one point in the season, like really down the stretch at the end of the year when they beat Duke. They were one of the only ACC teams to beat Duke this year. That was during that stretch. Clemson was as hot as anybody in the country during that time. So I don't really want to go there with that either. For me, it's another 10 versus 7. Can Utah State take down UCLA? That would be one that I would look at. But other than that,
you really are Mountain West Lance.
I might, I might be, man. I might be.
If you guys last year we did some college basketball episodes, like I love the Mountain West. Like I love watching Mountain West basketball here in the middle of Indiana, and I was all about the Mountain West. And then they just come out and they make me look stupid every year in March. And this year I'm not falling for it. Like that's the transition. That's my UCLA is my 5 seed or lower, guaranteed to win round 1.
Okay. All right.
And I mean, I thought I like the way they play. I like the way they've come on here in the past couple months. Past month probably, but I mean, Mick Cronin's a heck of a coach. Like,
he is.
Think what you want. He's probably a little bit of a baby on the sidelines, but he's a heck of a coach. He went to 3 straight Sweet 16s before last year. So went to a Final Four, and one of them as an 11 seed. So I just, Mountain West is going to have to prove it to me. Like they've been a solid conference. Like they're like a point below the ACC and KenPom. So like they're right up there. And but they're just gonna have to prove it to me in March, man.
So you ready for this? Like you got me there when you started. I think you jumped on me a little bit there with the Mountain West Lance deal. I said if I had to pick one, that it would probably be 10-7 Utah State over UCLA. Yeah. This is actually the only one where I don't have a lower seed winning in the first round.
Okay,
it's the only one that I don't. I've got UCLA beating Utah State.
Okay.
But I could see that would be the one that I could see the most. If Xavier beats Texas in the opening game, I could see Xavier or Texas possibly giving Illinois. Like I could see Xavier taking down Illinois. I could see Texas too.
Yeah.
I mean, Trey Johnson and Ryan Conwell in that matchup in the first 4 of Texas and Xavier. Conwell in his last game out of Madison Square Garden for Xavier dropped 38 points, and Trey Johnson is one of the best freshmen in the country, going to be a lottery pick in the NBA draft this year. So that is if you want to see 2 dudes go at it that are just absolute bucket getters, that first 4 matchup between Xavier and Texas with Trey Johnson and Ryan Conwell is going to be a lot of fun. But I could see either one of those teams possibly upsetting Illinois. Don't have it picked. I've got Illinois winning that matchup, but that's really the only 2, man, that I've got in here. I know you've got. We'll get to it in a second. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna start us off here. I've got Houston getting an unlucky draw.
Yeah.
Playing the 9th best team in the KenPom rankings, in the KenPom metrics, in the Zags.
Crazy.
It really is, man. I know that well, it depends on what you value. I mean, if you look at the predictive metrics, or if you
it's
look
just like football, we don't know what the committee values because they're touting quad 2 wins, but then they're touting other stuff and they're giving Gonzaga 8 seeds. Like
I agree 1,000%. Listening to Gary Parrish on their pod, man, previewing this bracket, when he said that when you look at all the metrics and then you go, okay, well now I'm going to put I got Gonzaga here. No, I'm not making a Gonzaga an 8 or a 9 seed and making a 1 seed play Gonzaga. Let's just move them to a 7.
Yeah,
like type deal. Like that's amazing that That's, again, one of those deals where they misseeded somebody.
Yeah.
They screwed Gonzaga for having to play a team, if they beat Georgia, for having to play a team like Houston in round 2. And Houston, a 1 seed, is screwed by having to play a team that's as quality and is as good as the Zags.
Dude, they went to what you love the most, as far as the CFP committee, and they just looked at wins and losses. And like St. Mary's beat them 2 out of 3 times. So like we got to put St. Mary's on the 7 line and put Gonzaga on the 8. Like, doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, man. And Tyler's being facetious there. I despise that in football. Like, oh, so and so's got 11 wins, and so and so's got 10 wins. The
Yeah.
11-win team didn't beat a freaking soul, so let's just make they're obviously better because they've got 11 wins.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got Houston playing the Zags. Mike White's done a wonderful job at Georgia. That's another one. Maybe this is why I'm not on the committee. I was shocked that Georgia was a 9. I thought they were going to be lower, personally.
Yeah, I mean, they respected the heck out of the SEC.
Yeah, they did. They did. And that's fine. They can still be in the tournament. But I thought that I was surprised that they were a 9 seed. Again, Georgia's a tough physical bunch, plays good defense. But again, the Zags, they play really good competition in the non-conference. Teams like the Dons at San Francisco, St. Mary's, there's some solid teams in that conference now. In the West Coast Conference. So, it's not like the Zags hasn't played any good competition this year. But, I'll take Houston versus Zags and just an incredible round of 32. One of the best round of 32 matchups we could have if that's what it ends up being.
Heck yeah. I got Houston versus Gonzaga as well. I'm going to take Clemson over McNeese.
Same.
And I'm going to do it. I'm going to take High Point over Purdue.
Okay. Well, hey, man.
I got it in my bracket of integrity. And I think... I just think, there's got to be, I don't have many upsets in the first round, but I think that's one of them. And I think, I just think High Point's got a really good chance, man. Purple Panthers. Let's go.
Nice, dude. I've got Clemson versus Purdue. And by the way, that's an inside joke. The Clemson football fans came for my throat because I pronounce them Clemson all the time. They said there's no Z in Clemson. So I'm just going to start pronouncing it like Dabo does. Clemson. I've got Clemson versus Purdue.
Okay. Bottom half, I've got Illinois coming out on top of either Texas or Xavier. Xavier's favored by 2.5 in that game against Texas, but I could see either team coming out with a victory. But
same.
I got Illinois beating either of them. And then I got Kentucky over Troy. So I think that sets up a pretty good second round matchup with Illinois and Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got the Flying Illini and Kentucky as well matching up, and that would be a fantastic brand of hoops brand matchup there in the second round in Milwaukee.
Yep, bottom pod there. I got UCLA, like I mentioned, taking on Utah State, beating them, and then Tennessee having no troubles with Wofford. So it sets up a good matchup there with UCLA and Tennessee.
Yeah, Rick Barnes and Mick Cronin. I'm with you there in that matchup.
Yep.
I've got Tennessee versus UCLA as well. Starting us off at the top side of the bracket again, man. As far as the round of 32 goes, if this is what it ends up being, this could be the best matchup of. I've got another one we'll get to here in a second that it could end up being as well. But yeah, Houston and the Zags. I'm going to go with Kelvin Sampson and Houston in this one. I just think that their overall, just the physicality, their defense, the shooting, just everything that they've got that they can throw at you. I just don't think the Zags will be able to handle Kelvin Sampson and Houston now. So I've got the Cougs heading to the Sweet 16.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I got Houston. Like you said, it's a tough draw. And then I think they're going to get another tough draw here in the Sweet 16 because I got Clemson over High Point. That's where the Panthers run ends. And I think that Houston-Clemson matchup in the Sweet 16 with Chase Hunter and Ian Shiflin and those guys with Brad Brownell going up against Kelvin Sampson and those guys would be a good matchup.
I agree. That's what I've got in the Sweet 16 as well.
Even if it was Purdue, I think Clemson was beating Purdue. Like you obviously got Clemson over Purdue as well. So
yep.
Bottom half, Illinois, Kentucky, heck of a game. I'm taking the Illini.
You're taking the Illini?
Yeah, taking the Illini.
Okay.
Illini, you've got a team here who is 345th in minutes continuity this year. Like they have been ravaged with injury after injury this year, missing guys. But they've got, an NBA player at point guard and Yakusionis. Kylan Boswell transfer from Arizona. You got a Visic, Hummerkaus. I mean, those guys can play. If they play up to their capability, they can be and hang with darn near anybody. But we've also seen them lose to Rutgers. We've seen them lose at home to a couple of teams like Maryland. I mean, so I'm getting blasted at home by Maryland by 21. So I just think they get it done.
Didn't it get beat by like 150 by Duke in Madison Square
Yeah,
Garden
it
at
was
one point?
110 to 67. So
Yeah.
obviously that did them no favors there. But Kentucky worries me a little bit. I think Lamont Butler's going to play, but Jackson Robinson doesn't sound likely. They got a couple other guys who don't sound likely as well. And I think Kentucky honestly was fortunate to get a 3 seed in my mind.
I was surprised, by the way, when that did come out. I thought they were going to be on the 4 line,
Yeah.
personally. But yeah, I was surprised they were 3. I've got the same matchup, Illinois, Kentucky, and I think that could be another one that could be just Houston and the Zags, Kentucky, Illinois could be 2 of your better matchups in the second round, and especially the style of play, the Kentucky Illinois game. They're going to be Kentucky's just not very good defensively in general, but they get buckets. Illinois can get buckets as well. I think it could be a high-flying, high-scoring game. I've got Kentucky taking down Illinois, but I'm with you, man. If 4 SEC teams, 316?
4 SEC teams so far.
Oh, we still got another bracket to go, baby.
I know. We're keeping track.
Yeah. So, yeah, Lamont Butler's health, though, is huge. I mean, if he doesn't play, they don't even have a point guard. So I need him playing, obviously, if they're going to make a run here. They are much better defensively when he's playing, because obviously he's really good coming from San Diego State. He was a really good point guard and a great defensive player at San Diego State.
Yeah.
He changes a lot of things for Kentucky. So I'm banking on him going to be able to play by that second game. And I think Kentucky takes down Illinois and Milwaukee.
Okay. And then UCLA, Tennessee. I got Tennessee coming out on top on that one.
I got Tennessee as well. It's 5.
Okay. Up top, Houston, Clemson. Like I mentioned, that's a really, really good matchup. Clemson, obviously, they pulled off some magic last year, going all the way to the Elite Eight, pulling off some upsets. But I think Houston, like you said, man, it sets up for them. It's a tough road. I mean, Gonzaga, Clemson, Tennessee, possibly that's a tough road right there.
Yeah.
But I think it sets up for Houston to get a win there in the Midwest Regional at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then, Battle of the Oranges, man, down at the bottom for me, Illinois, Tennessee. But I got Tennessee coming out on top too. So you're going to get either Kelvin Sampson or Rick Barnes in the Final Four for me.
Yeah, Tennessee's guard play. They've actually got some solid guard play this year. I mean, they always play really good defense, and they always rebound. But Chaz Lanier and Gainey, they're solid as can be. So Ziegler, obviously, he's done he's scored a little bit more this year for him offensively. One of the best defensive point guards in the entire country. Kentucky beat Tennessee twice this year. Beat them in Big Orange Country and beat them in Rupp. The old saying, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I'm not sure how hard that really is. I'd love to see the metrics to back that up. They say that in football, it's hard to beat a team twice, and they actually show it in football. It happens all the time. The teams beat another team twice. I just think Kentucky has Tennessee's number, and I think Mark Pope in year 1 gets the Cats to the Elite 8.
Okay. Let's finish it off with the West region, and then we'll head up the Elite Eight after this. Florida gets the 4th 1 seed, but they are playing like probably the number 1 overall seed if you had to judge them here in the last month. Like, you've been saying it for a month, man. And they were one. Like, I try to identify teams, December, January, that I think like have been playing like UConn, in the past a couple of years, how UConn's played, and you can just kind of tell a difference, man. And I was a little late to the game on Florida this year. I don't know if it was because they suffered a couple early SEC losses. They kind of flew under the radar because they didn't play anybody in the non-conference schedule. They beat Wake Forest and North Carolina. Like, they just didn't have many challenges. But man, they are absolutely electric. Like, they are so fun to watch. They can
No
kill
weakness.
you in the backcourt. They can kill you in the front court. Todd Golden just has an embarrassment of riches there.
Yeah, he does, man. And I back to the story that Tyler's telling here. I told him before Florida went to Auburn earlier this year on a Saturday. Uh, Pretty much Auburn's about unbeatable. It had been for the last few years in the jungle down there in Neville Arena. And I told him, I said, I think Florida's the best team in the country. I think they can beat Auburn in this game. And Florida went and honestly clapped Auburn's cheeks. I mean, it was a spanking.
Yep.
And from that point forward, Florida spanked everybody. I mean, they went on a tear down
Except
the
for
stretch.
Georgia.
Yeah, that's true, except for Georgia. Good point. Mike White got a win against his old squad there in Athens. And then go through the SEC tournament and just beat, Mizzou quad one win, Bama quad one win, Tennessee in the SEC championship game. Didn't really have any trouble with anybody. They literally have zero weaknesses, man. They've got 4 guys that are 6'10" or bigger. All 4 can run the floor. All 4 are rim protectors. 2 of them can shoot the 3. They play well together. They all pass very well. 3 of them can handle the ball well. They've got 4 guards that are just about as good as anybody in the country. They've got size, they've got length, they can defend, and they've got who might be the best point guard in the entire country, and Walter Clayton Jr., who is a walking freaking bucket and is smooth as silk at the point guard position.
Every shot he takes, I think, is going in.
Dude, you're right, man. It really, as a Bama fan that has played this bunch twice, and literally, it's like I just feel so helpless going into the game. I'm like, they're just an awful matchup for Bama. They're an awful matchup though for literally everybody. So yeah, they're the 4th 1 seed, and I can promise you, nobody wants to see this bunch. But they might be the team, man, that's going in hotter than you know what, going into the NCAA tournament. We're sitting here talking. Everybody else is saying the same thing, man. They've got no weaknesses. They're the hottest team in the country. They're the best team in the last month or two, whatever. That's all well and good, but it's literally a brand new season starting now.
I mean, that was kind of like Auburn last year. Like they were a 4 seed, but they had caught fire at the end. They won the SEC tournament. Bam, Yale comes and punches them in the mouth. And,
100%. I mean, you could easily see a situation here where round 2, if Danny Hurley and UConn are sitting there waiting on them in round 2, and the pedigree that are the UConn Huskies and the back-to-back national champs. I mean, hey, Florida, congrats. We're going to give you a 1 seed and let you possibly get the back-to-back natty champs in round 2. But yeah, that enough of me glazing over Florida here. But yeah, starting off at the top here, I've got Florida beating Norfolk State. And no offense to old Porter Moser in Oklahoma, but I've got Danny Hurley and UConn getting it done against the Sooners.
Yeah, I got Florida winning. I've got UConn winning as well. But Danny Hurley,
That's your boy, man.
He's a heck of a coach.
You're being nice.
In my mind, he's a little bit of a front runner. To be honest with you, he's done a lot of crying this year, and his team is an 8 seed, right? They're not a 1 seed like they were last year, or a 4 seed like they were the year before. Maybe he'll catch fire again here in March Madness. It didn't work out well for him in the Big East tournament against Creighton, but they haven't looked good this year. It all started in Maui when they just were atrocious there, but
they were.
He's still a heck of a coach. Got a lot of respect for him as a coach.
They're the definition of what I was just talking about, man. It's a brand new season. Well, everything that you've done up to this point, seriously, scratch it. It really doesn't mean shit at this point. Like, okay, you're seeded what you're seeded. We can all talk about who's underseeded, overseeded, bad matchup, great matchup, whatever. It's now put the ball. Let's tip it off, and who's going to be the best team on the floor in this game? Yep. And UConn could absolutely go on a run here. But yeah, I've got them taking down Oklahoma in round 1.
This is the region that I have the most first round upsets. And
you got the Rams. You got the Rams taking down.
Hey, I'm going to start it off with the Rams. 12 seed is favored over a 5 seed. 2.5 points. That pretty much. Vegas they don't have a lot of tall buildings for no reason, right? They know something, and you're going to have to prove to me that Penny Hardaway is a better coach than Nico Medved. I mean, he's got some athletes there at Memphis. They finally won the American tournament. I just think that Nick Clifford and those guys at Colorado State, like they're on fire. Like they are, as in the last month of the season, according to Bart Torvik, they're the 8th best team in the country.
Yeah, they've been dominant down the
Yeah.
stretch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So, I mean, I'd be a fool. I mean, I took them every game in the Mountain West tournament. They won that. And so I'd be a fool not to take Colorado State to beat Memphis. And then the other pod game, Grand Canyon with Bryce Drew. Not Bryce. Is it Bryce Drew? Yeah, Bryce Drew. They've got probably an NBA player there in Tyon Grant Foster. Obviously, you know him well from last
Yep.
March Madness, but I got Maryland. Just that crab 5. Those guys can score the bucket.
that's
They
better, by the way. That's a better name than the Fab Five. The
yeah,
Crab Five is such a G name for a starting 5.
Yeah, and Derek Queen just went absolutely nuts in the Big Ten tournament. And for a freshman, I mean, he moves super well for a big man. And I think Maryland gets it done over Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I was trying to look down here and see if RJ Hunter, what his status was for Memphis as we're sitting here recording.
You mean Tyrese Hunter?
Tyrese Hunter, sorry, yeah.
Doesn't sound promising from what I've heard.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's such a dude.
That
this
sucks.
is the best team that Penny has had. Like team, he's had a lot of talent since he's been there, but this team has performed the best of any team that he's had so far. Obviously, that speaks volumes there too. They're a 5 seed, but dude, listen to some of these wins they've had.
Again,
Missouri.
Sorry, you mentioned 5 seed. That they're the other team that I was like, that they're just the fact that they got a 5 seed and they're ranked 51st in Ken Palm, right in front of Utah State, right behind Vanderbilt. Like, I think maybe people were just sick and tired of seeing Memphis on that 8-9 line. But that's where they belong this year, to be honest.
I was surprised that Michigan got the same exact seed that Memphis got. And I mean, again, it's not Memphis's fault that they play in the conference that they play in. This is a story for another day, but the Big 12 should have brought them as well. But Memphis beat Missouri in the non-conference. They beat the Dons in San Francisco in the non-conference. They beat UConn in the non-conference. They beat Sparty and Michigan State in the non-conference. They played Auburn in the non-conference, did not win. They beat Clemson in the non-conference. They beat Virginia in the non-conference. They beat Ole Miss in the non-conference. You can't do any more than that as a quote-unquote mid-major. Like, I know they're in a mid-major conference, but I don't count Memphis as a mid-major team personally. With the talent that they've got and the type of talent pool that they bring in there in general. I know Colorado State's hot right now, man. I'm actually going to pick Memphis to win this game.
You got family there. So.
I got family there, bro. I got the father-in-law. The brother-in-law was on a manager scholarship on the Memphis team that went to the national championship game with old D Rose in that bunch.
Yeah.
But also, too, I just told you with that non-conference what that deal was. When Memphis steps up and plays the top upper echelon competition, like they're a handful. And I think they probably feel a little disrespect too of being an underdog in this situation, and everybody talking about how they shouldn't have been a 5 seed.
Yeah.
And I remember too when I think it was Florida Atlantic when they went to the Final Four that year. They had a round 1 matchup where they literally, I mean, it came down to the buzzer against Penny Hardaway's Memphis bunch.
Yeah.
In that game. So again, when the lights get bright and they play the step up of competition and play the better teams, Memphis plays well. So I know Colorado State, that is, in my opinion, the most trendy pick of the 12-5s for obvious reasons. Like you just said, literally Vegas has them favored.
I think that was my first Mountain West pick of the tournament, Colorado State.
There you go. See, now you're back to Mountain West Noe again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got the 901, the Memphis Tigers taking down Colorado State in that matchup. And hey, man, sign me up for a track meet with the Crab 5 and the Memphis Tigers in the second round.
Okay.
That's what I've got. I've got Maryland taking down the Antelopes of Grand Canyon in the first round.
Okay, I told you I had a couple more upsets in this region, and here's another one, man. I'm picking Drake.
I saw your graphic, and I was like, "Ooh, that must mean he has Drake."
Bennett Sturts and Drake and Ben McCollum, 30 wins this year. I took him to plus 6.5 on the spread. Missouri's good. Like Missouri's really, really good, right? But 6.5 points for a 30-win team, like that's a lot of points.
Hey, hear me out, bro. Hear me out. I'm not saying Indiana should hire him. This is random. I'm not saying Indiana should hire him. But if Indiana were to hire Ben McCollum, it'd be set up so perfect for him just to step up to the podium for his opening press conference and just literally look at him and say, everywhere I've gone, everywhere I've been, all I do is win. Google me.
Yeah.
Google me.
Yeah.
Because that's
It
what
would
he's
be
done
very,
everywhere. He has won his ass off.
yeah.
And I, I know it's going to shock you. I've got Mizzou, SEC team,
Yeah.
winning this game. But, dude, one of my buddies here in St. Louis, it's a Mizzou grad, I'm going to be watching the games with him this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was like, I don't think we're going to have any problem with Drake. And I told him, I said, man, be careful.
Yeah.
The Drake is absolutely one of those teams in the mid majors that year after year doesn't seem to matter who's coaching them. What a hire, by the way! Finally giving Ben McCollum a shot at this level. But a 30-win Drake squad, Drake Bulldog squad. I don't dislike the pick there, man. But I really like this Mizzou team for real.
Yeah, we're talking about a Missouri team that beat Florida at Florida.
Exactly. And I think they just scored again on Alabama.
Yeah.
But I mean they're older, they're more experienced. They did a really good job in the transfer portal. Dennis Gates did a great job in the transfer portal. Mark Mitchell, they held him out of the SEC tournament to make sure that he is going to be fully healthy in this NCAA tournament. So I do think it's going to be a freaking war in that game, and Drake gives them all they want. By the way, it's the first time I've used the reference of a warrior. I know you're probably proud of me. But I'm going to take Mizzou in that matchup in a close game. And I've got Mizzou playing Texas Tech. I just don't think UNC Wilmington, Texas Tech, man, and Grant McCaslin, that is one tough bunch there in Lubbock.
They're getting Chance McMillan back and Darian Williams back too.
Yeah, dude, that's a team. And this bracket, man, there's multiple teams that I've looked at that I'm like, I could see them making a run. That is absolutely I've got them in Kentucky. Obviously, I already got Kentucky in the Elite Eight. Kentucky and Texas Tech were the 3 seeds that I felt could make a serious run at a possibility of making a Final Four.
Yeah. Bottom pod there, last pod. Bill Self versus John Calipari, Kansas versus Arkansas. And then you got Rick Pitino in the same pod, all in Providence, where Rick Pitino was once coach against Omaha. I'm going to take another upset. I'm going to take Coach Cal to beat the Jayhawks because they're just two teams right now going in completely opposite directions.
Yep.
And rumor has it Boogie Flan may be back for Arkansas. I'm not sure that's a good or bad thing because they played pretty well without him, but Kansas, man, like preseason favorite, them and UConn were preseason betting favorites to win it all, to cut down the nets at like plus 900, right? And one's an 8 seed, one's a 7 seed. Hasn't panned out like Bill Self and the Jayhawks have wanted to after they spent all that money, getting obviously Hunter Dickinson staying and getting what's his face,
Rylan Griffin from Alabama.
Yeah, get Rylan. What's his face from Wisconsin? Store.
Yeah,
it just hasn't worked out for him. So I'm going to take Arkansas to beat them, and I'm going to take Coach Cal to face off with Coach Pitino in the round of 32.
I'm with you, man. I've got Arkansas and St. John's. Honestly, I think the Kansas-Arkansas game is a complete toss-up. Kansas falls into that category of Danny Hurley and UConn for me, of it's a new season. All the stuff you've done before now doesn't make a shit. And I could see Kansas out of nowhere just rock chalk Jayhawking through the NCAA tournament out of nowhere and going on a run with the talent that they've got. Like you said, preseason #1 team in the country. Now they're a 7 seed. But I just want to see Calipari versus Ricky P. I want to see that matchup in the round of 32. So I've got Arkansas beating Kansas there. And I was mentioning earlier, I said as far as the round of 32 goes and the matchups that we could have that would headline the overall round of 32, giving me some Ricky P versus Coach Cal and Houston and the Zags in the round of 32 would be just fantastic stuff, man. I would love to see that. So it sounds like we've gone through there. So I'm going to start back up at the top here. We both got Florida and UConn.
Yep.
I've got Florida winning, man.
Yep.
Again, I just
6.
Yeah, I've got Florida winning. I just think that they are the best team in the country right now. Would it shock me if Danny Hurley and UConn beat them? It would not. It might shock you.
I actually would be shocked.
Yeah, it might
that.
shock you. You've been on it pretty early, man. You were on it early with the UConn, and it just wasn't the same. Really early. I know it's easy to say that now, But I'm gonna give you credit that like we're talking about, like, I know everybody after the Maui Invitational that everybody was on them pretty hard, and they won some games after that. But like, you never once shot away from saying that they're not a very good team.
This ain't it this year.
Yeah. So if that's the case, and if you're right about that, then Florida might clap their cheeks in that second round. And then I've got Memphis and Maryland, the Crab Five, and Memphis there in the second round. And I'm going to take old Willard and Maryland there in the second round, but I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about it one bit, man. Let me say this as I'm saying this now, because we can obviously, people can listen back to this. If Hunter happens to come back healthy for Memphis for that second round game, if he's a go, I'll change my pick.
Yeah,
I think Memphis wins that game if he's playing. That's how much I think he means to this Memphis team. And again, athletically, depth-wise, all of that, Memphis doesn't have to take a back seat to Maryland. Yeah. But, like, you got a nickname called the Crab Five, one of the best starting fives, highest-scoring starting fives in the country.
Yeah.
I think that sets up a great matchup there with Florida and Maryland in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. Well, I've got Maryland versus Colorado State.
You got Colorado State, don't you?
Well, you mentioned – obviously, Maryland's 315th in the country in bench minutes, so they don't play a lot of guys on the bench. But I was tempted to take Colorado State. I really was, but I'm with you, man. For some reason, I'm gonna trust Kevin Willard, and I mean, they're locking him up, making him the top 10 highest paid coach in the country.
Has he ever made it to the second weekend?
No, we might be crazy, but this is the year, I guess.
But hey, to our defense here, if it's Penny and Memphis or Colorado State, I don't think either one of those have made it to the second weekend.
No.
So somebody's got to do it. Might as well be Kevin Willard in the Crab Five. By the way, dude,
I'm going to trust the metrics.
Now that you just said that, all I've heard from this week and studying up stuff too, reading things on these games, we're trying to find every little nugget we can. I've heard about the bragging of how Maryland's got the highest scoring starting five in the country. Well, yeah, that makes sense. The lowest amount of bench minutes in the country.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they play more minutes than everybody else. Of course, they're going to have the highest scoring starting five. Get out of here. But you're the Crab Five. You should be. After that, I know you've got Drake taking down Mizzou. I do not have Dennis Gates and Mizzou to get it done there. So I've got Mizzou playing Texas Tech. I got Texas Tech winning that game, man. I love this Red Raiders bunch. Guns up. I think that they could absolutely make a run here in this bracket. Again, that'd be a fantastic matchup, but I like Texas Tech's defensive ability, overall physicality, depth in that game, getting back, getting healthy. Give me Grant McCaslin and Guns Up and the Red Raiders in that matchup.
Yeah, I've got Texas Tech beating Drake. Getting those two guys healthy back again. I think they're a solid team, man. Like 7 or 8 in Ken Palm. Like they won at Houston earlier this year. I mean, they're the only team to beat Houston since November. So that's an amazing feat right there. So I got them going to 16.
And I remember watching them too, man, that game too. But I watched them go into Fog Allen when Kansas had their backs against the wall. The whole world, including me, backed Kansas in that game. And Texas Tech just came in there and put them on the table and absolutely just did work and beat Kansas in Fog Allen like that. Kansas has had their issues this year, but they've still won the majority of their games in Fog Allen. There's still a handful there. So to beat Kansas in Fog Allen like that, to beat Houston, like you said, that's just in Houston. That's
and to win at BYU.
Yeah, win at BYU. That's a dang good basketball team, man. And I know a lot of people are going to look at that don't really, like you just said, they've had some injuries down the stretch that's prevented them from probably being as good as what they can be. Now they're getting those guys back. Yeah, man,
Dude, think about the injuries they've had, and they're still ranked 7th in Ken Palm.
Yeah, I mean they're a handful, dude.
Yeah,
I could see.
So I got them playing. I got them playing St. John's. I got St. John's over Arkansas.
Same.
Don't be surprised if you watch that game and St. John's starts a little slow, but man, do they pick it up midway through the first half like they have the past couple games. And so I think Texas Tech St. John's would be a heck of a game.
Yeah, I could see St. John's turning Arkansas over so many times.
Yeah,
in that game with that Ricky P defense that they're going to throw out there. So yeah, I've got St. John's as well.
Were you surprised you only had 6 SEC teams in the Sweet 16?
Am I surprised?
Yeah.
No, I mean there's freaking 14 of them in here, so some of them's got to win some games.
With this, did you think you were going to have higher or lower?
I thought that'd be about right.
Okay.
I got a buddy here that's a big Illini fan that was telling me that he wanted to make a bet with me, just like a friendly wager, that he thought that there'd be more Big Ten teams that would make the Sweet 16 over the
Okay.
SEC. And as it got a little closer down the stretch, I started thinking about I had no idea there were going to be 14 teams. I thought there was going to be 12 personally
Mm-hmm.
out of the SEC. I started thinking about Wisco, Michigan, Maryland, Sparty, and those bunches possibly making a little run of the Illini. I mean, it's not out of the question that those teams could make a run there in the Sweet 16. But yeah,
I've got 4 SEC and 4 Big Ten in the Sweet 16.
yeah, and that absolutely could happen.
Yeah.
That absolutely could happen.
All right, so Florida versus Maryland. I think we're both taking Florida,
Yeah,
right?
Gators.
Yeah. Pretty self-explanatory there. And then Texas Tech St. John's would be a heck of a game in the Sweet 16. And man, I texted you the other day, as much as I would love to see Florida, St. John's, and the Elite Eight, it's just the Texas Tech. I just think they would have too much for St. John's in that game. Man, if they're all healthy, right?
Yeah.
And I think Texas Tech would beat St. John's. I got Florida, Texas Tech in the Elite Eight.
I'm with you. I've got Texas Tech in the Elite Eight as well. It'd be a great story too. Walter Clayton Jr., the point guard, who might be first team All American point guard for Florida. He got his start at Iona with Rick Pitino. He was a high school football star in the state of Florida. He switched to basketball. I mean, he played basketball, but he basically just gave up football to play basketball. And he was a high school senior during COVID and didn't get seen by a lot of coaches. And of course, Ricky P is not one of the best coaches in ever for a reason. He found some guys that knew.
Some would say he's the best coach ever.
Yeah, I know. Our boy, shout out Cole Frederick, knockout pool, baby. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the best ever. And he found Walter Clayton Jr., loved his toughness, loved his style of play, brought him to Iona, and it made Walter Clayton Jr. has done some interviews this year and said that him going to get the tutelage of Rick Pitino, and he grew up, became a man. His toughness that he still has today, a lot of that's from football, but a lot of that was from Rick Pitino. So seeing Rick Pitino and St. John's getting to play against Walter Clayton in Florida, that'd be cool. But I'm with you, man. I think it's guns up, Texas Tech and Florida in the Elite Eight.
All right, so we can match up on 7 of the 8 Elite Eight teams.
Yep.
So we're always in sync here on ATB. Auburn, Michigan State. I'm going to take Auburn to win that game. I have been high on Auburn since late December. Put a futures bet out on them to win it all. Obviously, they sputtered, like you said, 3 of the last 4, but I think they turn it on. I think they've just them in Florida. I mean, they're right up there with Florida, one of the most well-rounded teams. Janai Broom, obviously contender for Player of the Year. I think Auburn gets back to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2019. And then on the other side, I've got, I hate to say it, man, just got Duke over Alabama. And this is where, I mentioned it to you the other night. The fact that Alabama, is not a 1 seed this year is a huge disappointment for the guys that they had coming back and the dudes they had coming in. And the fact that I mean, if they make it to the Final Four, credit, but to not get back to the Final Four with all the hype and everything, like Oates said the other day, right? Did he not? He was on record saying, we got to get to the Final Four. That's it. If we don't get to the Final Four, the season's a disappointment. So he's on that train too. So I got Auburn and Duke going to the Final Four in the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, maybe I'm a horrible fan for saying this, man, but being an Alabama basketball fan, I do agree that the talent and all of that after they made the Final Four last year, putting the team that they put together this year, I understand it. I love that, my coach is saying that we want to. I'm glad he is saying that. I want him to say that. I want the team to feel that way. As a fan, I'm telling you, man, I'm just thrilled if we make as an Alabama basketball fan, I'm just happy to be in a Sweet 16, and after that, anything's gravy. But this team, yeah, I agree. It is a little bit of a disappointment what they've done this year. Incredible that Nate Oates has done such a great job at Alabama that being a 2 seed is now considered a disappointment. But I understand why you'd say that. And this is not making excuses. It's just a fact. Losing Latrell Wrightsell like they did, their best guard perimeter defender, One of their leaders was one of the, again, huge player for them down the stretch last year in that Final Four run. And then incoming freshman, 5-star McDonald's All-American Darian Reed basically hasn't played almost the entire year. He's probably their second or third best defender. So a lot of the defensive issues that a lot of people have been talking about, when you lose 2 of your 3 best defenders, that doesn't help. But hey, new season, new tournament. If Alabama's going to make a run, Grant Nelson has to be a major factor in this. Not knowing the full health of him right now, I would imagine if they make it to the Sweet 16, he's obviously going to be significantly healthier 2 weeks. That's another, over 2 weeks from now, getting to that point. But yeah, I going up here to the other side of the bracket, I do have Auburn and Michigan State with you. As an Alabama fan, I do have Auburn also in the Final Four. I think they've got the goods. I think Bruce Pearl is one of the best coaches in the country. This is another story for another day, but the turnaround job that he did at one of the worst programs in all of power conference of all of basketball was Auburn when he took it over. And now he has them as good as they are. It's just incredible.
Yep.
But I've got Auburn in the Final Four, beating Michigan State and Tom Izzo. I've got Florida in the Final Four, playing Auburn in that matchup. So, hey, that's 2 SEC teams there. I've got Houston in the Final Four, beating Kentucky in the Elite Eight. So I've got Houston on that side. I mean, it's our podcast, bro. Roll Tide, baby. Let's go. I got Bam in the Final Four taking down Duke. Why not us, Tyler?
Yeah.
Why not us?
Yeah. Everyone predicted you to go 7-5, right, Kirby?
I've got Bam in the Final Four. I got Alabama, Auburn, Houston, and Florida. 3 of the 4 teams are SEC teams, Tyler.
Yeah, I've got Auburn and Duke. Like I mentioned, I got Auburn playing Florida. I got Florida beating Texas Tech. And I've got Tennessee beating Houston. I got Rick Barnes getting to the Final Four. I've got 3 SEC teams in the Final Four.
Look at you, SEC Tyler. Okay, I see you.
It just means more, man. It just means more. All right, so Auburn versus Florida on the left side. We both got that matchup, right? So rematch of the game that took place in Neville Arena, like you said, with Florida embarrassing Auburn on their home court, winning by 9. I think Auburn gets revenge. I do.
Okay.
This is where, man, that will be a good game to watch. And it's as tough as it is to hop off the Florida train. Part of me, too, also doesn't want to pick Florida because everyone's picking them. So, going up against the number 1 overall seed, be a tight spread. But I've got Auburn beating Florida. On the other side, I got Duke and Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I got Duke coming out on top of that one. So I got Auburn Duke. Again, rematch of Cameron Indoor Stadium this year.
It was a hell of a game.
Yep. And to win it all, to cut down the nets, I've got John Shire and the Duke Blue Devils. I hate even saying that. I can hardly laugh. I can't even say it without laughing.
Laugh as you said it.
Shire. I know, man. Like you got the best player in the country, Cooper Flag, when he's healthy. I'm assuming he's like you talking about with Nelson and some of these other guys. Like I'm just kind of assuming here he's going to be back to full strength by the Sweet 16. They've got a very fortunate path. I mean, Mississippi State is going to be the weakest opponent for a 1 seed in the second round out of all those UConns.
Or with Baylor, either way.
Yeah. Or Baylor, yeah. Oregon, I mean, they're tough, but, they've got their weaknesses. Yeah. Alabama will be tough. That'll be a heck of a game. But I just think I think John Shire gets it done, man. Cooper Flag behind him, like the way they built that team, securing that guy, Cooper Flag, and then building the team around him with Sion James and getting Tyrese Proctor back, Malawach down low. I mean, I just think they got all the goods, man. So I think they get it. I think they make it 2-0 against Auburn this year and get it done.
Nice, man. Like I said, I've got Auburn playing Florida on one side, and I've got Alabama playing Houston on the other side in the Final Four. The thing with Florida, man, I know they're becoming a trendy pick, but like we just talked about earlier, I literally told you going into the Auburn game over a month ago that Florida was the best team in the country. And so far, they've turned out to make me look good. Our boy Cole Frederick, he and I talked about a lot too of Florida. Like we thought he was the same way. He thought that Florida team was one of the best teams in the country as well, and is the best team in
Yeah.
the country. They've showed it so far. I would be sick to my stomach if I don't. Like if I end up going against it
Yeah.
and Florida goes on this run and ends up winning it all, I'd be sick to my stomach on it. So I've got Florida taking down Auburn in the Final Four, beating Auburn again, and then I've got Houston, man. I know it's going to shock you because like you're the guy that normally is on the Houston train and backs Houston more than I do.
You don't want Alabama to play Florida for a third time.
I really don't, man. I don't. I'm tired.
Just lose to Houston. I'm good with that.
I am tired of getting my Alabama fan cheeks clapped by Florida. So yeah, I think Houston and Kelvin Sampson and takes down Bama in the Final Four.
In Florida would be a heck of a match. Like just contrast, like to see if Houston could slow down, make that game super physical, kind of like Tennessee decided to try to do. But again, Florida put up 86 on them.
Yeah, I would love to see Miles Suzon and L.J. Cryer and Manuel Clark and that bunch, how they Manuel Sharp and that bunch show up and how they would play against the guards trio for Florida. But I've got Florida cutting down the nets, man. I think again they're the best team in the country. Whether they go through this tournament and prove it, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this tournament, man. There's anybody can go on a run, but going into this tournament, I fully believe that Florida is the best team in the country. They do not have any weaknesses. So I think that Todd Golden and the Florida Gators take down Kelvin Sampson and the Houston Cougars in the national championship game, and Florida cuts down the nets.
Okay. Well, we'll stop talking y'all's ear off. We know we went long tonight, but it's March Madness, so we got to get our preview out. We'll break it out into each region on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. So we appreciate all of you who tuned in for the whole hour and a half. It takes a long time to get through all 63 of these games, but we did it, man. We did it. We're ready for ball to start.
Dude, I had a blast. This was great, man. The greatest tournament in the freaking world. It's the best time of the year. March Madness. It's fantastic. Just a couple of show notes here again. You can follow us, like subscribe on YouTube. Always Talking Ball. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on TikTok. Follow us on all of our social medias there. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, ATB15 for 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Homefield Apparel's also got some sick March Madness gear for all your favorite teams. They got shooting shirts. They've got some incredible stuff. No matter who you're a fan of, I promise you, they've got some gear for just about any team you could imagine. And if you're going to any of these games, if you're going to go to any of these games, go to SeatGeek. And if it's your first order on SeatGeek, you get ATB15 for 15% off. Is it ATB15 on there as well for SeatGeek?
Yep.
For 15% off at SeatGeek as well. But this was fun, man. It was a blast as always.
Yep. And as you know, we're a college football podcast. We decided to delve into the world of college basketball, but we'll be back more probably as March Madness starts finishing up. We'll dive back into the world of college football. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you in a couple weeks.